A bit of a continuation of the last couple talks that I gave, just to put some context to it. But I was thinking, especially for the kids today, that one of my heroes was Walt Linkletter. He always did the kid thing and interviewed children. They have so much for us to learn from what's in their hearts and in their minds. And I was thinking, like water and food that are physical nourishment, hope is a nourishment of the Spirit, and we need hope to live. So my question for you all today to ponder is to ask you where you find it in today's world. So a few months ago, my topic was finding hope within a particularly Jewish understanding, and I mentioned a teaching from Rabbi Jonathan Sacks about the ability of human beings to think in the future tense. For example, Moses was instructed to introduce God to Moses' people with the name, "I will be what I will be." And then in the creation story from Genesis in the Hebrew Scriptures, God's first words were, "Let there be." What was to be had not yet become. Future tense, future hope, future possibility. Human beings are capable of imagining what life could be, was my point. And thus we are capable of human freedom. We are capable of creativity, though we often struggle to live with it and to foster it. So it's in that future tense understanding that our hope to become what we believe rests. That's where it lies. And that is very true today. In a negative sense, to become what we believe is a very dangerous thing, but I'm more interested in a positive and a hopeful understanding of becoming what it is that we believe. So in that talk, I looked at Judaism. I am also very aware that there are many ways to find hope within the Christianity in which I was raised, and hopefully you can understand a bit of that too in an example here. A particularly Lutheran belief is quite different from other denominations who see hope in Jesus' return, in some kind of ending to the world as we know it, some kind of a heavenly battle that involves a conflict between good and evil. And in reference to that, perhaps you saw a letter to the editor a couple weeks ago in the Daily Mining, is that from a well-known individual about the Antichrist. And I just happened to be in the library, and I just happened to read it. She writes from a narrow and very specific Christian perspective that is the opposite of my own understanding. This might sound strange to say, but that in which I have learned to hope is even more than Jesus being born into our world. And I was thinking about that during the Christmas season. This particular kind of hope is even more than Jesus being born into the world. Because in my understanding, the story of Jesus living and dying and being resurrected is a story of God's ongoing relationship with the world, not its ending. Jesus' presence is a story of God's ongoing, continued relationship with us. One of the terms for Jesus, the name, is God, translated God with us. And so what that means to me is the presence of hope incarnated in a human person, hope in the flesh. It's one of the many stories that make that religion unique in the world of religions. Now that's a little bit of a context. I'm going to change subjects here. What we don't often welcome in our lives are earworms, right? They get inside a little phrase, a song, get inside our head, and they get stuck there for a while. And that happened to me recently, but this one I will keep. This one I would like to keep and ponder. It's an earworm, and the words are these. And Juxta, if you can put that up on the screen for us today. Our world can be changed by one person's peaceful presence. Even though Jesus is distinctly out of vogue today in many denominations, just out of fashion, it's still a Christian teaching, in my understanding, to follow Jesus, okay? No matter what denomination you are, that should be something that we understand. It should be that way. And that means loving one another. Very simple. It's still a Christian teaching, hopefully, to love one another, and acting then in that love for one another. And this is no excuse, but maybe it's part of the problem. Why don't we think that way anymore? Well, you could say, well, Jesus lived a long time ago, you know. And that distance between now and way back when can be huge. It can be significant. A whole lot of things have happened. A whole lot of history has gotten in the way. It makes me think of the great philosopher Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, who often said, days, weeks, months, who knows? And he also said, oh, bother. Well, Eeyore was not an optimist. I don't know what hope Eeyore had, but I would love to hear more people from many denominations, many religious persuasions say, well, God saw fit to bother. God sees fit to bother. If you're a believer in a God, that power sees fit to bother and be involved in our lives. And that made me think then that we are blessed to have known those who did take Jesus seriously, those who chose to bother with their lives. And one of those people that I've come to talk to you about this morning was anti-apartheid activist Pastor Desmond Tutu, who died on December 26, 2021 at the age of 90. This Nobel Peace Prize winner was called to be the Archbishop of Cape Town, South Africa in 1986, and he was the spiritual leader of 1.5 million Anglicans in South Africa, 80% of whom were black. God's light shone in this humble and inspiring man who both preached and lived the message that we are all children of God, who are called to follow a path of love, a very specific path of love, specifically through nonviolence in the struggle in which we live. Desmond Tutu did not separate the love God has for us in his understanding from acts of love that we are called to have for one another. If you could put that on again, just as a reminder, our world can be changed by one person's peaceful presence. In the context of this racist system of apartheid in which he lived, Archbishop Tutu said something that we can understand today. You are overwhelmed by the extent of evil. I think we can understand that today. In helping to create South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, he understood that it was necessary sometimes to open a wound, to cleanse it. Similar to our own efforts these days to participate in a truth and healing movement addressing our church's many denominations' dark past with involvement in Indian boarding schools, this South African movement was a painfully healing process. In return for an honest accounting of racially motivated crimes that were committed by both white and black people, the commission offered amnesty to the perpetrators, establishing what he called as the principle of restorative justice. Archbishop Tutu understood that the policy of apartheid was as dehumanizing to the oppressors as it was to the oppressed. Another earworm that Tutu is well known for is this: love does not exist in a vacuum. Simple terms like that poster over there says, hate has no home here. There is no place in God's world for hatred and injustice. So in the documentary film about this Truth and Reconciliation Commission that was called A Long Night's Journey into Day, Desmond Tutu, this gentle and tenacious old man, demonstrated what he understood as God's authority when he stated, "This process is not about prosecuting anybody. It's ultimately about getting the truth so that we can help to heal, and also so that what we will know to avoid in the future." He also said, "We make the mistake of conflating all justice into retributive justice, but there is something called restorative justice, and this is the option we have chosen." Well, most of us, I also believe, have a hard time imagining how justice can exist without punishment and retribution. It's a human thing. And we also know that truly righting a wrong is nearly impossible to do. But retribution does not satisfy the deep pain that we often experience. And as Tutu reminds us, there is another way, which he identified from his tradition as Jesus' way of shining light into our darkness. In our lifetime, that light shone in Desmond Tutu, who waited 62 years to vote, and yet bore no resentment for the country or the people and the institutions that dehumanized him. Instead, he devoted his life to heal and to unite his country. He understood Jesus' way was not in power and not in retribution, but it's in forgiveness and it's in grace. That's a challenge when we hear a story like Ain told us that we all are very aware of today. To devote our lives to heal and unite the country is a huge task. Desmond Tutu can be a light in our darkness. Forgiveness and grace. Forgiveness has a power to heal that retribution does not. But Tutu also believed, and here's another screenshot for you, Tutu believed that forgiveness also calls for justice. Forgiveness follows honest lament and confession of the sins, the brokenness that we commit. Forgiveness follows the brokenness in which we live, and then applies grace as a salve to the wounds that are open, that we both inflict upon each other and that are inflicted upon us. And when our eyes are opened, we can see that grace right in the middle of our lives, although sometimes it's very hard to find. That grace is available to us no matter who we are, is difficult to practice. Grace is hard to define. We can more easily understand it by what it is not. Grace is not resentment. It's not anger, although it's hard not to feel that way. Grace is not divisive. It's not exclusionary. It is not intolerance. It is not self-righteousness. All those things that we are very, very good at. We are perfectionists at those things. But grace calls us out, and it confronts individuals, it confronts a society, it confronts institutions and political platforms in which hate and blame are endemic. Those things that we now are learning once again that we need to stand up for very clearly. Desmond Tutu proclaimed something counter to our current political worldview. If you could go back a little bit, one more slide back. We are different from? Oh, maybe it got skipped. Before we go to the Ubuntu, let me say something that there's a line right before that. I'll just add that, okay? Desmond Tutu, let me back up. He proclaimed something that is completely counter to our current political worldview, and that is that we are different. This is Tutu's words, not mine. We are different so that we might know our need for one another. Okay, contrast that with what we're hearing today. We are different so that we know our need for one another. Then the word Ubuntu, there we go, that's the one. Then the word Ubuntu is the African word that means a person is a person through other people. It means I am because we are. To be a person, Umuntu, among people, Abantu, one must continually uphold the personhood of others. For me to be who I am, I need to uphold you, in other words. Practically speaking, when we humbly acknowledge our transgressions and our brokenness, when we lament those things, then we are blessed with forgiveness. And then we turn around and give that same gift to others. So in the spirit of Ubuntu, we could add action words to that. Itamunhu, which means be a person. If you're German, you might say, or Yiddish, be a mensch. Come on. Uphold the personhood of others. So another screenshot. Ubuntu is God's critical race theory that is rooted in ethical and social relations. This kind of critical race theory is not rooted in biology or genetics. It's rooted in love. Some Christian traditions right now are celebrating a season of Epiphany, meaning manifestation or appearance. And that's the significance of the story that I shared with you a little bit of the Magi, who followed a light to one on whom this light of God shone. I spoke about it last month. A teaching from within that particular story of Epiphany is that Jesus' life demonstrated that light shines on all of us, and it is to be shared with the entire world. It is that moral arc that bends toward justice. It is the rainbow God paints in the sky. But unlike Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, our goal is not to live somewhere over the rainbow, but it is to live in the light and grace and forgiveness under the rainbow that canopies all of creation. Tutu stood with Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King, all who were inspired by Jesus, for a just society without violence and racial or gender or economic divisions. That critical race theory. So what was particularly inspiring about Desmond Tutu and his great friend the Dalai Lama was his unshakable optimism in the face of overwhelming odds, and his limitless faith in the ability of human beings to do good. He once said, and I love this phrase because how often do you hear the word ghastliness these days, okay? Despite all of the ghastliness in the world, he said, human beings are made for goodness. And he also said, the ones that are held in high regard are the ones who have a commitment to try and make the world a better place. So imagine that. Imagine that as the hope in which we together read and affirm the covenant of what it means to be and become QAnon Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. And imagine this. Our world can be changed by one person's peaceful presence. That comes with the reminder, however, that no one person, not Jesus, not Tutu, not Gandhi, not King, not Mandela, no one person lives or loves or acts alone. All it takes is one person to shine a light of hope. But it takes all of us to change the world. And that, my friends, is why we are here. Amen. Okay, thank you.